Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mihir Pandya from Team ETH. I welcome you all to the Economic Times Virtual Global Enterprise Technology Forum brought to you by ETH, a Times Group company. I hope you, your family, and your teams are safe and sound amidst this COVID outbreak. I thank you all on behalf of ETH to join early morning for this webinar. Also, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our partners, Amazon Internet Services Private Limited, Automation Anywhere, Sophos, and Veeam, who have played an instrumental role in making this happen. The Global Enterprise Technology Forum showcases the power of digital. It is one of our path-breaking initiatives to bring business and technology leaders across the neighboring countries on a platform to exchange ideas and chalk out digital roadmaps. To throw more light on this initiative, let me invite Mr. Manish Sharma, Chief Manager, Economic Times Edge. But before I hand over it to Manish, I request you all to be present till the end of the forum and answer the polls and feedback. Also visit the webinar website for detailed terms and conditions. Over to you, Manish.
Thank you so much, Mihir, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. ETH is always at the forefront of building knowledge and networking platforms across multiple industries. And this time, we are cross-pollinating ideas with our neighboring countries, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and Bhutan. The Global Enterprise Technology Forum is a path-breaking initiative to bring business and technology leaders across our neighboring countries on a common platform to discuss how to reinvent digitally amid COVID. Enterprises across the globe are going through a phase of transformation, and this change involves the adoption of digital technology. To be in the top league of their respective industries, companies are adopting technologies like artificial intelligence, blockchain, advanced analytics, Internet of Things, cybersecurity, and of course, hybrid cloud. In a nutshell, the digital roadmap are in place, but they are hit by COVID-19, pushing them to revisit and realign the technology roadmap. Ladies and gentlemen, to master resilience, leaders need to drive an organization-wide digital reinvention. Many businesses and technology leaders have taken and are taking steps to tackle the crisis and ensuring business resiliency plan in their organization. Today's various sessions would revolve around the digital transformation journey of various organizations, and we have one interesting power-packed panel discussion lined up around refining resilience. We are privileged to have our eminent business and technology leaders from State Bank of India and Policy Bazaar from India. We have John Keels from Sri Lanka. We have Alfala Bank from Bangladesh and Nabil Bank from Nepal. Thank you so much for joining us. On behalf of ETH, I would again like to thank our partner, Amazon Internet Services Private Limited, Automation Anywhere, Sophos, and Veeam, with whose support we have been able to make this forum possible. The endeavor here is to bring to you the perspective from different nations and exchange ideas for the betterment of organizations and nations at large. With that, let me wrap up here. Let's look forward for some interesting and exciting exchange of ideas today. Thank you and welcome again. Over to you, Mihir.
Thank you so much, Manish. Let me now introduce Mr. Sundar. Sundar is the head of SMB and
Really?
Yes.
Mihir, you'll have to give me control. Yes, thank you. Okay.
Dharma, can you just pass on?
Yes. So thank you everybody for making the time today, and I would love to meet you all personally at some point. Right now, unfortunately, we are meeting in different circumstances. I will be taking you through about 20 minutes on how customers are migrating to the cloud with ease. I run this team which focuses on migrations in the India and South Asia region. And I have handled clients across Lanka and Bangladesh quite often in the past, so I do have some idea of your market. In terms of agenda, I'll be quickly talking about what are the business drivers, what are the patterns we have seen, who are some of our reference customers, what are the best practices we have evolved, and some suggested next steps. So starting with why customers are migrating, almost always we see that out of these 8 reasons that we hypothesized, it almost always starts with cost reduction. Everybody is looking at a situation where the CFO has said, find a way to reduce costs. So it starts there. But then what we find is even during the evaluation of cloud, whether cloud is the right thing for us or not, typically they find that their own IT teams, they start experimenting, they get trained, they get certified, they start building applications very rapidly, and it's a very pleasant surprise for customers. The chief operating officer of Pramerica Life Insurance here in India, for example, she told us that even though she saw a 20% cost benefit of moving to cloud, what really pushed her to go back to the CEO and tell him that they had to move to the cloud was that she was seeing developers bring back applications within a week, which otherwise would have taken maybe 6 weeks to 8 weeks to complete. And the CIO who was reporting to her was also very pleasantly surprised. So it just made the decision a lot easier. So you will see that agility and developer productivity often ended up, trumping cost reduction as the key reason. The other reason we see is where customers have got significant contracts in place, whether it be for co-location charges, whether it be for Microsoft EAs or Oracle Unlimited license agreements and so on. And when those are coming to an end, they are more than happy to look at ways to reduce the cost there by migrating to the cloud and in the process, modernizing those workloads to take them off of proprietary softwares to move to open source, which is managed by AWS. The other reason we see is where people want to innovate. So people are saying to us, don't just take it and do a lift and shift to the cloud because that's really not going to give us too much of benefit. What can you do to help us modernize? So to give you an example, one of the leading insurers here in Delhi, we have worked with them where they've taken their old application, which they were giving to agents when they would go around selling insurance to end customers. And they were finding that people weren't using it because it was a very clunky application, very difficult to use. It forced people to enter data in a particular sequence. And when they were trying to modernize that application, it would take them multiple weeks to test each and every change because one small change requires you to test the entire application. So we worked with them and said, there's no point taking it to cloud as it is because the problems will still continue. So we did a working backwards workshop, as we call it, where we reimagined what the customer journey map and the user experience would look like. We broke that application into 5 pieces, each pertaining to one portion of the application form for insurance. So one related to health information, one may be related to your salary, one related to your family, etc. Though it was wraparized to make it look like it was one single application for the end user. When we were able to develop that application, they did it in about 6 to 8 weeks, which was about a third of the time they would have taken otherwise. More than 50% of their total volumes comes through this one single application. And because it runs on cloud, at month end or quarter end or year end, when the load goes up, they can smoothly increase the capacity and then bring it down when they don't need it. And it's been a very, very smooth experience. And the fifth reason we saw is people who move because they want to derive better analytics. So one of the leading tire manufacturers in India, for example, they procure a lot of natural commodities like rubber. And one of the challenges that they were facing was, how do we predict the pricing for this? How do we decide when to buy? Because these are based on a global commodities trading platform. So they have to be able to predict and buy either forward purchase or delay their purchases and so on. And one of the reasons they moved to cloud was they wanted to collect such data in real time, analyze it, and then make very quick decisions on what to buy, when to buy, how much to buy using these analytics. And they have been very successful with it. Now, moving ahead in terms of the trends that we have seen, and this is true for the whole of South Asia that I've been now working with projects on. And we have seen that the earliest adopters are typically NBFCs because that's where the maximum innovation and disruption is happening. And insurers, again, for the same reason. We see FMCG companies who are increasingly trying to develop or touch with their end customers. They are also moving to cloud. So, for example, we have a leading shampoo manufacturer who's also opening beauty parlors because they want to be part of the larger value chain. And as part of that move, they are moving to cloud so that they can start developing CRM solutions, they can start developing loyalty solutions, and so on. IT/ITeS companies are adopting cloud in a big way to lower costs, and media and entertainment because of the sheer volume of data involved. If I look at the pattern of the workloads, we see that initially it started off with lift and shift. About 70% of the workloads are still lift and shift. which is your core systems, test and dev, DR, and so on. But in recent times, we have seen that about 30% of the workloads involve some form of modernization. So by modernization, I mean where people either re-architect an application with open source databases or breaking up larger applications into microservices or using serverless computing and so on. And also, a very pleasant surprise that we saw was initially people used to either move everything or nothing. Now people are willing to look at moving explicitly an SAP workload. In Bangladesh, for example, we have had huge success with SAP workloads. People are willing to look at taking specifically Oracle or Microsoft SQL Server databases and say, can you help us migrate that to open source and take that to cloud so that we can reduce costs? So we are seeing a very pleasant difference there. Now, moving on in terms of some of the lessons that we have learned, what we have seen is the easiest way to drive a large migration project is if there is a senior sponsor, a CIO, a COO, a CFO, who is able to sell the business case internally, because there's a lot of change involved, and without a sponsor, that becomes difficult. So we normally, when we speak to customers like yourselves, we assess who can sponsor this project internally. The second lesson that we have learned is most people, their finance and procurement teams still don't understand the economics of how cloud works, and therefore they tend to use the same metrics by which they compare with on-premise computing. So they will look at per core cost or per TB cost and so on, whereas that is meaningless in the cloud. So for example, if you buy a core on-premise, you have to use it for the next 5 to 6 years, whereas on cloud, if you buy a core, you can switch it off when you don't want it. We give you free upgrades every 18 months on an average. When I say free upgrade, what I mean is you get superior performance for the same cost. So if you are today using, let's say, R4 instance and we release R5 instance, you get R5 at the same cost as an R4. So it actually gives you superior performance for the same cost. Now, these are things that people have to be educated on. So these days, we educate CFOs and procurement people early in the evaluation cycle. And we then work with them to build a business case. And what we have seen is if we don't build a detailed business case, things don't move, because ultimately it always comes back to how much is going to get saved above all. The other thing we see is that getting the chief security officer, the chief risk officer, the auditor, and so on board early makes a huge difference, because they have serious and very legitimate concerns about security, compliance, privacy. So we have learned our lessons. So nowadays, very early in evaluations, we talk to them, we give them a full detailed dump on what's happening with our security model, and only after they are comfortable do we actually migrate any workload. And in terms of minimizing risk, we strongly recommend to customers to work with some of our certified partners, our own professional services. That way, they are able to take the advantage of what others have learned in other projects and use them. And lastly, we ask them to focus heavily on the change management, because many people are worried about what's going to happen to their jobs. So to help with the change management, we train people. So during the evaluation itself, we train people. We ask them to start working on small projects, do proof of concept, so that by the time they go live on cloud, they don't feel threatened by this new technology. In terms of some of our references, you'll see that we have a whole bunch of mass migration references across insurance, across NBFCs and banks, across manufacturing, and across a range of other industries. Like, for example, Make My Trip is India's largest online travel portal. Zee is one of the largest channels for TV entertainment and so on. You see here Shray Finance, based out of Kolkata, who are a very well-known NBFC, which is a non-banking finance corporation. So they offer loans and so on, but they can't take normal savings accounts, but they can offer everything else. We have people like our Ratnakar Bank who have migrated over 60 applications to the cloud. We have people like Jubilant Foodworks, who are the franchisee in India for Domino's Pizzas and Dunkin' Donuts. We have people like Liberty General Insurance, who are a subsidiary of Liberty Global in India. We have ICICI Lombard, which is a joint venture with Lombard globally and ICICI Bank in India. And these have all been highly successful customers who have migrated significant workloads. So these are not people who are just running one small website or a payroll application or something. These are people running very core systems. So to give you an idea, for example, Liberty runs their entire core insurance platform on cloud. Over the last weekend, we migrated HDFC Life, which is India's second largest private insurer, lock, stock, and barrel, to the cloud. If you look at Make My Trip, they run lock, stock, and barrel on cloud. Every single application runs on cloud. NEML, for example, National E-Market, they offer a trading platform for agricultural commodities, which runs up to 20,000 concurrent users. It runs completely on AWS, where they've replaced Oracle with open source database, and they've saved over 50% of their cost. And in terms of SAP, we have a whole bunch of references for you. We have people like, for example, Philips Carbonback, who produce industrial chemicals and so on. These are all manufacturing customers. We have Berger Paints, we have Havmor, which is a very well-known ice cream manufacturer in the country, and so on. And in financial services, we have Edelweiss Group, which runs their core SAP insurance on the cloud. And in other industries, we have people like DTDC, which is a very leading courier company running their SAP on cloud. Haldiram's is one of India's best-known fast food brands, which runs on cloud. Brigade Group is one of India's best-known real estate groups running on cloud, and so on. So you can see that we've been able to create value across segments, across sizes of industries. Some of these are mega groups. People like, for example, Edelweiss, which is a huge financial services group with over a dozen entities. And then you have really small players like, let's say, for example, somebody like a Zomato who do food delivery, a very small startup kind of an organization running SAP. So we have such a range of customers that we work with. And we have also seen financial benefits. We have seen, this is a study conducted by IDC about a year ago, where we have seen that our enterprise customers have seen tremendous financial benefits, whether it was in terms of lowering of costs, whether it was in terms of added revenue because they can come to market faster with new products, and non-financial in terms of improved uptime, in terms of improved productivity of their people, and so on. And this was about 15 enterprise customers who had been on AWS for at least 3 years before before we interviewed them, so that there was enough data for them to make confident statements. And to give you an idea, one of the customer, which is Pramerica Life Insurance, normally in India, because the month of March is when the financial year ends, people don't touch any application. But last year, in Jan, Feb, and March, he migrated lock, stock, and barrel to the cloud because in May, he had a co-location contract coming up for renewal, which his CEO said there was no way he was going to sign that. So he had to move, and it was a very smooth process for him because he was able to do the migration in 90 days across Jan, Feb, and March. And since then, they have seen that they're able to deploy in 48 hours, things that used to take 3.5 to 4 months in the past. In terms of the best practices, we have evolved a 6-step program called as a Migration Acceleration Program, which has a detailed methodology. It has a set of tools which we and our partners have built, which help you with assessment, with moving by virtual machines to the cloud in terms of cost optimization and so on. We have a whole bunch of partners who we work with very closely. For example, in Lanka, we work very closely with Millennium IT, which is one of our bigger partners. We also have a whole bunch of our own professional services who can assist in a remote model. And we have training services, which I mentioned earlier, where we train people early in the sales cycle, during the evaluation, so they can start playing with the technology. And last but not the least, for larger projects where customers say that, hey, my initial cost is going to be a double bubble because I'm going to be spending on cloud and I'm going to be spending on premise, we put in a little bit of investment from our side to reduce that cost for you upfront in return for you committing to migrate to AWS and be a reference for us. So this investment is part of the program. To give you a little idea of the methodology, which is, I would think, a very important component for you all, we start with a rapid assessment, which lasts for about a week, where we do a rapid discovery and give a very high-level TCO report and a readiness assessment for you to tell you how ready you are for the cloud. And if you think that overall that output makes sense and you want to plunge in deeper, then we get into a detailed discovery and planning. We help you build a landing zone on which you can start migrating a few applications. We train your people. We help you migrate a few applications so that you develop the expertise. We help you set up a new operating model and security model on the cloud. And we come out with a detailed business case and a detailed migration plan which says week on week which applications to be moved in what sequence, what will be modernized, what will be just a lift and shift, and so on. And only after all this do we get down to doing a full-fledged migration. And this process can last anywhere from 2 to 6 months, depending on how ready the customer is. And the actual migrations can go anywhere from 90 days, as was the case with Pramerica Life Insurance, to up to a couple of years for some of the larger insurers where or larger manufacturing companies where the SAP had to be re-implemented because they were running ECC SAP and they wanted to move to SAP S/4HANA, and that took a long time. So that was part of the overall migration plan. In terms of helping customers build the business case, what we look at is if your cost today is this gray bar on premises, we look at if you just did a plain lift and shift with no optimization, nothing, what your cost would be. And typically we find it will actually be slightly more expensive because your hardware would have depreciated in many cases, whereas I'm giving you brand new hardware. So my unoptimized cost will typically be higher. But then as part of the business case, even before you migrate a single workload, we will show you how you can do optimization so that you can, without having to touch a single application to change a single line of code, how you can optimize even commercially. For example, instance right sizing through improved elasticity, like switching off servers when you don't need it over the weekend, storage optimization to use a mix of HDD and solid state devices where required. We're able to reduce your cost just to show you that compared to your on-premises, you can be cheaper even without modernizing the application. And then we show you a roadmap. And then we also do proof of concepts to prove this, that through a combination of database open sourcing, through shrinking legacy applications, through serverless architecture, how we can considerably lower your running costs to up to about 30–40%, in some cases even higher. The national e-markets example that I spoke about earlier, the people who run that commodity auction site on cloud, they have reduced their database cost, which was their single largest cost, by about 50% by moving to database open source. And we provide you with a detailed business case where we show you across different heads how much we are reducing your cost in terms of, for example, server costs, storage costs, network costs, labor costs, and so on. We show you a detailed breakup of how you can lower your costs and also, of course, your software costs. And we will go through multiple rounds of this with your CI, with your CFO, with your head of procurement, and so on. I've rarely seen these get done in less than 3 or 4 iterations. A minimum of 3 to 4 iterations is required before people are comfortable, and we can do it for a 3-year period or a 5-year period, whatever you are comfortable with. Some customers tell us that, look, all of this will take too long. My people don't have the patience. Can you pick a few applications and do a rapid migration to the cloud so that I'm able to show a quick benefit, so that I'm able to show some quick time to market, low-hanging fruit, as it were, and we do that. Here is an example of moving 50 applications in 50 days. It could be 10 applications in 10 days, whatever. Ratnakar Bank, who I mentioned as a reference earlier, they first moved 10 applications in 10 days, and then they did 30 applications in 30 days, and now they run more than 60 applications on the cloud. And all this was done pretty rapidly because they were realizing that the entire analysis that they had to do, which is what I showed you here, this analysis was taking such a long time that people were starting to lose patience. So while that was still going on, they did this. So now the entire process has got accelerated. People are seeing the value ever since they moved those 40 applications to the cloud. They're seeing that the uptime is much better, the scalability is much better. They're able to provision instances and deprovision them and not required very rapidly. So now the entire process of even looking at core banking has started. In terms of next steps, depending on where you are in your journey, we can help you. If you are clear on moving to the cloud, but you just want help on building a roadmap and a business case, we can do that for you. If you say, I'm not really sure cloud is for me, but if you can show me something, I'm willing to look at it. In such cases, we could arrange a reference call for you with a similar industry. They can deliver a high-level business case, which will not take more than a week or 2 of investment from our side to give you an idea of the benefits. And then if you like it, we can get into the more detailed exercise. Third is where some customers have already started moving a few applications, but now that they want to move a significant workload, somebody from the team says, the security officer or somebody says, hey, I'm not confident of the security. So can you do a proper assessment before you continue to move workloads? We can do that. We can conduct a migration readiness assessment, do a detailed roadmap for you, and we can set up the landing zone for you so that you can confidently continue to migrate applications rather than doing it based on what your own people might have done. We can come and do it for you in a more professional way. And if you want to move, but you want to get management sponsorship, we can get people excited by talking about the Culture of Innovation workshop, where we come and talk about how other people are innovating, how that can help you look at more innovative use cases. Because some people say, hey, migration, it's really not cool. People are not getting excited by that. But if you can come and talk about how other people have built bots using cloud, or how they have built, let's say, IoT platforms using cloud, or how they have built, let's say, GPS tracking systems using cloud and so on, that would excite our people. We can come and do that. And last but not the least, if you want to move, but your team members are concerned about their futures, we can train a few of them, and we can conduct a few POCs to build their confidence. So that's it from my side. I hope that was helpful. So back to you, Meher.
At the end of the sessions. Now, let me introduce Mrs. Suja Mirza, Head Pre-Sales, India and SAARC Veeam Software.
Sorry. Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. Allow me to just share my presentation. It was really nice listening to Mr. Ram Sundar, senior colleague on migrations. Wonderful session, sir. And
long time.
Hi. Good to see you, sir. And it's wonderful to have you over. And thank you again, everyone across the SAARC geographies. Wonderful to have you over. This is the first time I'm presenting to the SAARC audience over a WebEx, and is good. Sorry, I guess someone has to go on mute. There's some background noise.
Manish, can you put yourself on mute, please?
Yeah, so in about 15 to 20 minutes, I'm going to take you through, how are we really trying to offer or deliver availability for our customers as Veeam. And to set the context, I think data is changing everything. And if you see these trends listed on the slide, cloud, mobile, edge IoT, AI, and ML, all of these trends are pointing to one thing, that they lead to a very, very high growth in the data size for our organizations. And that data is not only generated by organizations or within the four walls of the data center or the cloud repositories. They're generated by the users who are consuming these services from your organizations. And while they interact with you, it becomes your responsibility to preserve their information as well. And the rate, more than the size, I think at the rate at which these information assets are growing, that poses a very different kind of challenge. And in today's time, if I may use the term, the rate actually introduces a peak, and that our organization's readiness to really address those peaks and really have our arms around it from a governance perspective, from a data protection perspective, from our ability to recover in time. All of these things are challenged. And data today is, can be monetized as well. And I don't know if you did catch that news this morning. Facebook invested about $5.7 billion in Reliance Jio, a company which has all data-driven services being offered to customers here in India. So that's big money, coming in. Facebook seeing the value investing in that company. Relating to the growth in data, relating availability to the growth in data and the rate at which it is growing, I think in the era of digital, if availability digital were to be defined by just one thing and one word, then it would be availability of customer services. And that at the back end is driven by availability of data. Veeam, through its technology, helps ensure availability of data services which power your customer services and then ensure they get the best digital experience from your services. And the availability for our users, it means different things, but essentially confidence of recovering is at the forefront. So availability, allows customers to have a very resilient availability practices, and technologies allow them to have a very resilient infrastructure and leveraging cloud resources in the process. But at the same time is the confidence of recovering, which allows them to do business with a lot more confidence when they go out and service their customers. About the speed of recovery, gone are the days when we could wait for hours and hope to recover. We were dependent on tapes and We all know what the industry went through using tapes. Although tapes are present, they have a use case, but we're looking at speed of recovery and how fast we can recover our workloads. And finally, it's about leveraging backup data. When I say leveraging backup data, some of our customers came back to us and said, well, we have these huge repositories, of dead data. We've just been making copies, or if I were to simplify this even more, we've just been doing Control C, Control V for a very, very long time, and creating these big repositories of data, which is just sitting there and not doing anything. And it's tough to explain it to the finance part of the organization that why are we just creating these copies of dead data, only hoping that they will work for us one day when we need them. Well, in the meantime, if we could just leverage these copies and bring this bring alive these dead data sets, and we can offer this back to business as test and development repositories, as BI repositories, and really getting the maximum ROI out of the backup repositories we have. So legacy backup in these changing conversations and changing landscapes, the legacy backup tools are not meeting the business needs. I mean, look at the new workloads. We saw Mr. Ram Sundar also talking about the services available in AWS and why are people adopting those services. Just imagine your legacy backup, software trying to address data protection needs of those modern workloads or those modern infrastructures. They're just not scaling up, and whatever attempts they've made, they've been very, very, patchy or sort of bolt-on solution on top of a very archaic platform, so to say, and leading to complexity, inflexibility, and of course, they are very, very expensive. Now, customers are responding. Of course, they are taking action. Organizations are saying that by 2021, 50% of our customers and potential customer base, they are looking at changing their current backup application with another solution, and that's where Veeam is seeing a lot of traction, and people are choosing Veeam to really deliver the best outcome for their modern workloads. Veeam emerged as the leader. Veeam came into being in 2006. It's a very young company compared to some of our competitors and people in this space. But we knew where the industry is heading, started addressing the needs of the modern enterprise, modern data centers, and now the cloud-based workloads. With about 365,000 customers, or more than 365,000 customers, servicing about 82% of the Fortune 500, over $1 billion in revenue. We have a net promoter score of about 75, plus 75, and people well versed with net promoter score. We range between minus 75. Net promoter score ranges between minus 100 to plus 100, and a plus 75 is about 3.5 times higher than our nearest competitor. The broadest ecosystem of partners, of course, in a heterogeneous world, we work with the best of the best. Also ensuring that whatever technology you choose will be able to, service your data protection needs, irrespective of the hardware platforms or be it the cloud service providers. The VCSP partners, as you see at the end of the last line in the slide, VCSP is the new consumption model which we offer to our customers, and you can find VCSP partners in Sri Lanka, in Bangladesh, and Nepal, where we are servicing our customers through our cloud service providers, Veeam cloud service providers who partnered with us as service providers and offer Veeam technologies on a pay-as-you-go model. And you have the option of subscribing Veeam technology through them for your workload. Whether you have workloads on-prem or you are hosting with them, the choice is absolutely open. How do we do that? How do we really deliver the best availability for our customers? We do that through a virtual platform, through the Veeam platform, and the platform works across all physical, virtual, as well as cloud repositories, delivering multiple services. So we're going to quickly look at each of these services, examples of each of these services through a case study across all of these. So starting with backup and intelligent recovery. Offering data availability. Here's the case of a large, automotive parts manufacturer, a very, manufacturing intensive organization where they were using these large purpose-built appliances across their worldwide data centers. They were facing challenges not only in maintaining availability because these were single controller arrays and they had challenges maintaining availability for recovery operations, but they had problems in upgrading as well. Quite expensive. The irony was that the backup storage is more expensive than the primary storage, just because it was doing dedupe. And Veeam gave them a choice of decoupling the software functionality, where we said deduplication driven by the software platform will give them a choice of deploying any commodity hardware and using it for backup recovery purposes. So they had some of the existing storage resources which they leverage for backup recovery operations. Now they have the choice of buying anything which they feel is right for their business, is state of art at that time. They could just choose to have any of those hardware platforms in their environment. Allowed them to really increase coverage of their workloads. They were leaving workloads out of the backup recovery practice because if it had to go on an expensive machine, they had to really invest a lot more. So they increased coverage of their workloads, protection coverage of their workloads because of lowering costs and a very flexible platform. So cost reduction by about 70% and with full DR automation for some critical VMware-based workloads. Just a bit on the kind of platforms we cover through our backup and recovery services from our platform. So if you have your workloads in a cloud environment, we would be able to protect that. Direct integration with virtual machine hypervisors or virtual hypervisors like VMware, vSphere, Nutanix AHV, physical servers, Windows, Linux, AIX, Solaris, the ability to protect O365, and this is very, very exciting and and is gaining a lot of traction these days. O365, the myth is that once it is in O365, maybe we don't require, or we don't really have to back it up or protect our information assets. But guess what? Microsoft says O365 is an available platform which is hosting your data, but the responsibility of your data stays with you. And in case you lose anything, Microsoft will not be responsible. And therefore, a lot of traction for protecting emails, SharePoint portals, OneDrive repositories, etc. Oracle and SAP HANA, serious business applications, critical business applications being protected by Veeam. On cloud mobility, this one's a government example where we worked with a smart city e-governance project in a smart city e-governance project through one of the large SIs, and they had on-prem DC and they wanted to do DR in cloud and chosen AWS as the DR destination. The workloads, the building management system and the IT applications, they required protection, and they were using expensive capacity-based licenses from an archaic software, and that was really limiting them from expanding the coverage because with lots of images, designs, etc., and the rate at which they were growing, they were finding it very expensive to do that and very inflexible. There were a lot of hops in between and stuff before they could get to cloud. Powering on services in AWS was a problem using that software. So Veeam allowed them to use an instance-based licensing, absolutely open. So whether it's a physical, virtual, or instance in cloud, there is a single instance license, irrespective of the capacity associated with it. Cloud mobility delivered by protecting the workload on-prem, giving them high-speed recovery functionality, and at the same time moving the data in the cloud for them to power it up whenever they require it. They don't have to keep those machines powered on all the time. They have their data repositories stored in AWS. You could right-click and simply power on the machine as an EC2 instance in this case and start serving the user. So cloud mobility, seamless cloud mobility achieved. There is no extra cost of really having this functionality as part of the basic platform backup and recovery service in the platform. Monitoring and analytics, and it is imperative that when we start out, delivering availability, it's good to know what we are running. So if you have these hypervisors, and this is supported on two hypervisors, and of course the backup recovery side of it as well. So if you're running workloads on Hyper-V or on VMware, then it's a good idea to probably know how well it is configured. How would it respond in case there is a peak load condition? Is there a possibility that something might break, a network, for example, or a configuration in a certain cluster or a certain set of VMs, which may not really live up to the service level agreement which you promised to your customers, so or your users, and therefore the Veeam-1 service or the monitoring and analytics service from Veeam allows you to see how well you are running your production setup. It allows you to set alarms. You can set triggers, take automated remediation action, or even have a remediation action taken through interference by or an approval by management or the operator saying, okay, go ahead, take this action based on this condition, and sort of brings in the automation piece from Veeam. Allows you to run a very healthy infrastructure with predictive analytics, and also helps you take remediation actions based on a condition. So we have Mr. Mayank Bedi, he is head of IT department and BST Tillers, makers of the Shakti tractor, and he uses this dashboard, his morning coffee dashboard, as they say, and he gets to see all the all the greens. If there were any yellows and red, he goes down, drills down deeper into yellows and reds, would know exactly where the problem is. It also allows you to do, and just to augment with what Mr. Ramsundar said, it also allows you to augment the right sizing of your workload. So if there was underutilization, overutilization of your server, memory, your storage resources, it will throw that report and have you repurpose those resources for some other workloads. It also allows you to do capacity planning and workload modeling. So on a given infrastructure, if you were thinking of buying more servers and storage to accommodate more workloads on that infra, Veeam-1 will give you a good view of what is the percentage utilization on the existing infrastructure. The new load modeled on the existing infrastructure will take utilization from X to Y, whether you can accommodate Y within the existing infrastructure or not. And it can not only help you save money sometimes because you don't have to buy extra to accommodate new workloads, but it also acts as a justification tool. So if you're finding it hard to really, internally really go and justify that why do you need this server or why do you need more storage, Veeam-1 gives these beautiful reports which will tell you, well, this is the amount of storage we had, this is how we are utilizing it, this is the performance and the deployment metrics of the existing resources, and therefore we need to go ahead and secure more infra. So monitoring and analytics, the solutions around the same, as I said, 24/7 monitoring, remediation ensures backups, not only backups continue, but also your production infrastructure is taken care of. And of course, disaster recovery and compliance reporting. So from this tool, you also get these disaster recovery and compliance reporting as well. Automation delivered through Veeam-1, we saw that, but I wanted to bring up another interesting aspect of automation. Automation projects are being deployed by industries across, and this is an example of an automation project deployed by the largest two-wheeler manufacturer in the world. While they were doing this for their warehouse, a downtime of 1 hour had an impact of upwards of $100,000. So 1 hour downtime, impact of $100,000 straight away. Backup and availability were the major concerns, led by availability, ensuring that the RPA setup should be absolutely 100% available in case something were to happen to a component or the site itself. Based on Oracle as the heart of the system, what Veeam did for them, we set up an automated DR to the secondary site. Backup assurance for protected data, because it's about the confidence of recovery, as we talked about. Quick and easy recovery. We don't want to be grappling with complex systems when we really have to recover or come out of a crisis. And this, I think, the word easy, I would say, is the most underrated word while we do our evaluation. We look for these complex and very, very, specific technical features and functionalities. And there's nothing wrong in that based on your business needs, but it is absolutely important that the ease of operations should be considered equally importantly, because it allows you to resume your operations or bounce back to business very, very quickly. You don't want very, very complex solutions working, or dealing with complex solutions when you have to come out of crisis. So this one really eliminated the human intervention for monitoring and also managing backup and availability operations. From an automation perspective, intelligent orchestration of their disaster recovery operations, automated testing of DR and migration plans. So the tool also publishes these test drills, these DR readiness checks. So it allows you to publish failover plans, then allows you to publish a DR readiness check report, allows you to do a DR drill and publish a DR drill report, and then finally, of course, execute a full DR in case you wish to, or if there was an unforeseen event. Sometimes preemptive movement from one data center to another based on impending conditions. So a very comprehensive portfolio, and call this the Veeam Availability Orchestrator, works across VMware environments today, and shortly it will expand support to other hypervisors as well. Governance and compliance, I think there are two industries, rather three. So BFSI, of course, pharma, and then I think the most regulated industry is the gaming industry, the gambling industry, I have to say. But this example is around BFSI, and there's a large South Indian bank which chose Veeam because they had to build a DR strategy, a DR platform. At the same time, they would have gone ahead and bought something to do their backup recovery. With Veeam, they got an amalgamation, a very balanced, tool which would do both technically as a single process. So that meant two things. One, they don't have different administrators to run their DR and backup recovery. At the same time, since it's technically a single, process at the back end, it puts very less load on the infrastructure. So the Veeam tool allows them to replicate from one data center to another across cities, and also allows them to publish these beautiful audit reports in a compliance environment. I think sometimes it's important to have that functionality, and for some, I've really heard this from many. For some, it is important to really show compliance, and audit reports, compliance reports help them prove their compliance as well. So Veeam completes the picture for them, consolidates multiple tools, lowers the cost with, by giving them the choice of hardware. They didn't have to worry about which hardware vendor would eventually supply me the gear, and would I have my availability and my backup solutions aligning with that or not. Veeam provides a completely software-based platform, a software-defined solution. There is absolutely no reason for you to be worried about what you have on the floor or what you might even procure later to run your business. So fully integrated with virtual infra, eliminating any vendor lock-in, saving bandwidth. Of course, we got our own built-in WAN optimizer, which allows you to further deduplicate and compress while we send it across to the other destination site, target site. Isolated testing for new patches and upgrades, on-demand reporting, and actionable documentation from a solution perspective, and perform compliance analysis before restores. And I just want to spend maybe 30 seconds here. So the Shore backup functionality from Veeam allows you to actually power on your backed up workload in the backup repository itself. When I say in the backup repository, there is no impact on the production. You're actually doing a restore drill in the backup repository itself by powering on a workload, checking the IP, disk, OS, and the application. When everything works well, the tool reports that, now that now we ensure that you'll be able to recover this workload back into production. All elements of application and all the infrastructure elements and the networking elements are absolutely fine for you to go and restore the full workload. So works across VMware and Hyper-V repositories forms the basis of any compliance or audit requirement. So if there was an auditor standing over your shoulder and asking you to do a DR drill, you can simply run a Shore backup job which boots up the whole machine, gives you access to that machine, read-write access to that machine. If you want to check functionality or you want to do a full restore, feel free to do so. Otherwise, generally it is enough to show them how well you can bring up the workload without having to restore it back to the production setup and publish those reports. So is a really cool way of adhering to compliance and ensuring and more than just ensuring or letting others know. It's more about being confident yourself that whatever we backed up, we can restore back to that point in time. Another functionality I wanted to talk about while I leave you at this slide, why Veeam, is the ability to do instant recovery. While we back up these virtual machines, a lot of us as backup technology providers, we do instant recovery of virtual machines. Some of us, we do it only for VMware. Some people do it for VMware and Hyper-V, but Veeam does it across environments. I mean, you could have a VMware, Hyper-V, or even a physical server, which you can instantly recover, provide absolute instant access. When I say instant, it could be a few seconds, or it could just be within 2-3 minutes. You can recover a full physical server into your infrastructure and give access to your users. And just imagine the pains of really recovering a physical server, doing a bare metal recovery. VMs are still easy to work with. Cloud workloads are absolutely fantastic. It's absolute instant recovery through snapshots. Veeam orchestrates or has the ability to orchestrate all of it if you want to. For physical servers, providing instant recovery of physical servers without you having to worry about the OS, the patches, deployment of applications, the customization which you would have already done for your applications. All of it can be brought back instantaneously for users to continue accessing those services. And that's all I had today. So leaving you with the why Veeam slide. Simple, reliable, and flexible. Simple, again, as I said, very underrated. And in these times, I think simplicity should be and always be considered reliable. Look at across technologies, look at things which work, which provide you a simple interface, makes it simple for you to operate. Reliability, of course, it should work. Veeam just works, but whatever you choose across technologies should work, should be tested, proven, and of course flexible, giving you a choice of choosing whatever you feel right is right for the business at that time. So today you choose something, you should not be bound by hardware, appliances, or specific operating system choices, etc. Feel free to choose whatever works best for your business at that time, and you would find Veeam protecting that. That's all I had. Thank you so much for being in the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Suja. So any questions for Suja would be taken in the chat box, and the common questions can be taken up later in this day. Now let's move forward to the most interesting panel discussion which is awaiting us. We are joined by Mr. Yasish Dahiya, co-founder and chief executive officer, PolicyBazaar.com. Mr. Dhananjay Tambe, Deputy Managing Director and CIO, State Bank of India. From Sri Lanka, we have Mr. Ramesh Shanmugathan, Executive Vice President, Group CIO, John Keels Group, and CEO, John Keels IT. From Bangladesh, we have Mohammad Tasimul Haq, Head Country IT Operations, Bank Alfala. From Nepal, we have Mr. Anil Shah, Chief Executive Officer, Nabil Bank, Nepal. And our moderator would be Mr. Ashwini Mishra, Consulting Technology Editor. Over to you, Ashwini.
Right. Thank you so much for the introduction. Good morning and a warm welcome to all our esteemed panel members and viewers across the SAARC region. Glad to have your presence for this virtual Global Enterprise Technology Forum. I hope you, your loved ones, and your team are safe and healthy. The topic of this panel, Redefined Resilience, is very apt in these current times. I want to start off with a conversation that I had with the CIO of a private banking firm in India. He said, and I quote, "Everyone is looking at me. I'm dealing with ensuring business continuity, increasing online loads, employees working remotely, and data protection. Every day is something new." This statement reflects the urgency and pressure tech leaders are feeling as they navigate the COVID-19 pandemic that continues to grip our worlds. Every one of us is closely monitoring the pronouncements on the crisis that flow in from our respective governments and health bodies. India and many other countries have started to ease some of the lockdown restrictions. In the grand scheme of things, the level of progress is tiny, but the message it sends out is very positive, and that message is being resilient. In the enterprise scenario, the responsibility lies with the business technology leaders to bring back normalcy in their organizations. And to master resilience, leaders need to drive an organizational-wide digital reinvention. Having said this, and without taking much time, I will bring in our esteemed panel members and request them to take a couple of minutes and share their views on some of the key short-term actions that they took to increase their organization's resilience against this disruption. We will start with Mr. Dhananjay Tambe, PMD and CIO at State Bank of India. Dhananjay sir, as executives team grapple with the fallout, CIOs have become a key player, and the CIOs have become key players in this crisis response plans. In this world of travel restrictions and social distancing, how have you managed to put technology at work and help the bank be operational?
Thank you very much, Ashwini. In fact, the greatest challenge that has come to us is from the non-availability of the human resources. So let us break this crisis into two parts, and let us very clearly understand that this is not a crisis where you can invoke your DR, because nothing has gone wrong with your data center. Your servers are up and running, your network systems are up and running. There's nothing that has happened to them. What has happened is to the human beings. The people are not able to come to the office. So the model that I had earlier was that everybody would come to the IT center and then work from the IT center. So my servers, for instance, are accessed from the IT center because the firewall accesses are given to the individual desktops. Now, this is where the challenge came. When there was a lockdown and people could not leave their homes and come to the IT center, then how do I run the show? There are two aspects of it. One aspect is the maintenance and operations part of it, and the other is the development part of it. Now, the maintenance part of it is something, which will absolutely critical, because you cannot have your servers down, because you are today serving a very large number of customers remotely through internet banking, through ATM, etc. And your branches are all up and running. So therefore, having people to come to the office had become the greatest challenge. We did not have a VPN setup. Most banks did not have a VPN setup for accessing their servers. So that is something, which we had to work on very quickly. Of course, fortunately for us, we did have a solution, a productivity solution on the cloud. So that helped us a great deal. So as far as communication was concerned, communication between staff members was concerned, that was not a challenge. But non-availability of staff was the greatest challenge, and that is what we are still grappling with.
Pravin, Mr. Ramesh Muganathan, John Keys again is a conglomerate having business in various sectors like transportation, property development, financial services, retail, to name a few. How did you ensure stability and address operational disruptions?
Hi, good morning, everyone, and thanks for having me on the panel. And let me thank the organizers for putting this together. It's an irony, I think, 1 month back, you all were talking about having these physical events in Sri Lanka. And today, we're having this virtual event across SAARC region. That only proves that it was not technology which is needed to this event. It's probably our whims and fancies, not having this on a virtual forum. Right. So, similar thing from a John Keys's context, we've been an early adopter of a lot of the technologies which have lent itself today for work from home. And we've been kind of well equipped with that kind of technology as early as in 2015 with Microsoft 365, Teams, WebEx. All the tools were enabled for us. So the only thing that COVID probably pushed us is to probably for the human mindset to change the way we look at tech, right? So I always say tech is always a means to an end and not the end in itself. And this has enabled, given the crisis, for everyone to easily kind of embrace the work ethic as long as they were wanting to work from home, right? So I think we seamlessly moved in terms of from an organizational point of view, from an employee point of view, it was very least disruptive and the people embraced it. I think the challenges started arising in terms of, as I said, being a lot of B2C businesses. So obviously we had a blend of brick and mortar versus click and this thing in terms of the digital side of the front line. So that is where I think we saw enormous shift from people embracing from the physical store to a digital store, right? And that's a way I think which also kind of created a bit of challenge for us in terms of scaling up fast. And that's something that we embraced because we've already migrated a lot of tech to cloud. So we were easily able to scale vertically in terms of embracing the capacity requirements. But obviously, the user experience side of things obviously can improve, right? Speaker mentioned to be data driven. How do we really take online channel to be data driven, personalize things, and drive it forth? So from a lot of our businesses, as I said, work from home has become a new normal for us, and we are probably looking at even continuing it beyond the crisis. And as I said, this is a phase of resilience. We are trying to anchor ourselves and then look at reimagining in terms of what the future would be and remodel ourselves. And obviously, tech is going to play a huge role in terms of all the tech that was spoken of: cloud, data, AI, IoT. Everything is going to obviously become core tech stacks that we will embrace in enabling that.
Banks, etc. So, hearing Dhananjay sir, I think our security needs are a lot less than banks in the sense there's no money to be withdrawn here. People are just paying for insurance policies. But at the same time, we have pretty high. We are part of the BFSI, so we need to have a pretty strong security layer as well. So work from home happened almost instantaneously, and while we had about a week to plan for this, I think in the normal course of events, it might have taken us, months or years to kind of move so many people to be working from home. It's worked well so far in the sense productivity is held up, talk times have held up, connectivity is held up, in fact improved, and fingers crossed everything is working well so far. But I suspect it's not going to be the technology that's going to be the challenge because that clearly worked quite smoothly. As we get into the summer months, India is a hot country. Most of our employees do not have air conditioning at home. A lot of our employees don't have air conditioning at home. And that could start to pose some difficulties. Also, the kind of difficulties we are starting to now see are just, the human being is a social animal. So people were not coming to work largely to just do their work. They were also kind of getting together, and a lot of the time was actually the office gossip and the office, camaraderie, which one will have to see how one kind of keeps that going. So, I suspect this is not going to be a technical challenge. It's going to be more of a human, motivational, psychological challenge as time proceeds.
Right, Mr. Haq, as head of country IT operations at Bank of Al Fallah, how was the scenario? How did you tackle this crisis?
As it is mentioned by Ramesh sir, yes, the thing is that in Bangladesh is the same. The people are more staying at home. We are encouraging splitting staff in the office. In fact, Bangladesh Bank has advised all the banks not to open all the branches. Only you have to open those branches which are very essential and ensure keeping skeleton staff. Like frontline, the soldiers like doctor, nurses, and health workers, bank employees, those who are working in the counter and the front line or dealing directly with the customers are also exposed to this pandemic. So banks have to take all the measures that those who are still coming to the bank and running the bank, offering the services, they should be protected. They should have proper gear, proper protection, and and ensure their health and hygiene. But still, in the third world country like Bangladesh, you can understand the people has got a very little knowledge. Some of them are very unaware of this pandemic situation. They are not. I'm telling about the customers because the government is very, very active in this role that they are continuously giving ads, giving suggestion over media and various means that people should be aware of the health hygiene. They should know what is happening to them. If they are infected, they should immediately call the hotline numbers instead of going out and make themselves self-quarantine. But still, there are poor people. There are people which doesn't have that kind of, the sense of knowledge about this pandemic is very new to everyone, and sometimes it's an invisible enemy because we don't see it, so we don't feel it really what is going to happen unless we are affected. So the people, government is trying to manage the people as well. So still, we are thinking in the bank that still the people who are coming, though they are customers, but they are still, we don't know who is infected and who is not. So bank is trying their best in Bangladesh to protect their employee, their health, their hygiene. At the same time, we are ensuring services to the customer because they have to continue their life. Although all the offices, restaurants, about 10,000 restaurants in Dhaka, they are all closed. All the offices are closed, and people are really having a tough time now. And after this pandemic is over, we don't know really what will happen to the economy, which is, I think, same everywhere in the world. This economic disruption caused by COVID-19 threatened millions of livelihoods in Bangladesh. We have former 50,000 workers, 50 million workers working for the government sectors. There are people who are working abroad and sending remittances. All these people are also losing their jobs. Governments, factory owners, they are very much worried about their business because they are losing their contract with largely Bangladesh sends garments to European countries, UK, Germany, and Italy, France, also to USA. But all this, entire economy in the world economy is now threatened by the pandemic, and the garment sectors are facing a great threat how they will move forward when this pandemic is over. So now to keep this, the garment workers, those who live on daily earnings alive, government has taken a lot of initiative. Government come up with about 950 billion taka incentive for various sectors, including giving wages to the government employee for 3 months, salaries, and also giving very soft loans to various sectors. We have got a big SME, small and medium enterprise, those who are also greatly affected because all the shops, mainly owner of this SMEs are women. About more than 60% are women driving these companies, small cottage companies, and they are also facing a lot of challenges. So government is trying their best to support them, but most important thing is to control the pandemic, which is still not in a good shape. Every day the death toll is increasing, number of people are infected, and it's become a very uncertain situation when this thing will stop and things will move to normal. But one thing is that Bangladesh is used to this kind of disaster because we have faced a lot of humanitarian crisis. Sitting astride a river delta at the bottom of the Himalayan range, the country is fighting a long-standing battle against the impact of climate change and currently hosts the world's largest refugee camp along in southern border. You know, we have got Rohingyas coming from Burma, and in 49 years of existence in Bangladesh, and its people have shown tremendous resilience in fending off not only natural disasters such as flood and cyclone, but also man-made ones like the 1997 Asian financial crisis and 2008 global financial crisis. The COVID-19 pandemic, however, is a crisis of a completely different magnitude and one that will require a response of unprecedented scale. Bangladesh leader in the public and private sector come together to respond to this immediate threat to health systems and the long-term effect to the country's economy. Already big conglomerates, you know, we have got big super shop owners, real estate owners. They have given their convention center. We have they have a very big convention center. We can host 5,000 people. They have given all the convention center to make isolation center for those who are affected with the COVID-19 infections. So people also coming up with their means to help government to overcome this situation. People are also helping a lot of poor people, day owners, and day laborers, and they are coming up with various kind of relief activities, which shows a lot of respect for the poor, for those needy ones, and they are trying their best to help them out. But the most important situation is now for the government is to tackle the pandemic, make it confine and reduce the infection, and so that the country can move forward with the economic activities, which it was doing very well from last 10 years. As you can see, Bangladesh has got a steady growth of GDP from starting from 6% to now 8.5%, but that is not threatened with this pandemic situation, and really everybody is worried, especially the business sector, government, and economics, that what will happen when this pandemic is over. And the good thing is that Bangladesh is a very fertile land, and this is a season for harvesting of crops. Though there was a shortage of farmers because everybody is scared, now the government is mobilizing various apps and hotline numbers to get the farmers online, get this crop harvested, and also there is a break of supply chain because the people are not there to buy their products. So they are trying to create supply chains from the government. They are saying that they should get the actual price. They should not be deprived of they should not lose their profit. So the government is trying to create a supply chain environment in the village side, in the farming side, so that people can still survive in this grave situation.
Right.
So
right. Points well taken, Mr. Rak. So I think you've addressed some of the concerns that citizens face, and how the government is trying to address those issues. Mr. Shah, I'll just come back to you. Dhananjay sir, Mr. Haq touched upon how the government has been helping their citizens. In India as well, while you have been trying to keep business as usual at the bank, there were some announcements that was made by the government to provide relief to borrowers. Now, also direct benefits will be given to around 30 crore citizens. Now, what kind of challenges did you face to accomplish this in a very short notice? Considering that you also have to address to keep the business as usual. Amrit sir, can you hear me? We'll come back to that question in that case. I think we've lost him, or he's not been able to. Mr. Shah, how has been the scenario in Nepal, considering Nabil Bank is Nepal's first private commercial bank, how have you addressed this crisis?
I think as the panelists before me have said, this crisis is quite unique because I think most of us in the financial sector and in the non-financial sector also, when we talked about disaster, we talked about how to be prepared, like we had a big earthquake, floods, something that would cause physical damage. And then those of us who survived that physical damage would come to work, and then, whether it was through DR sites or other BCP means, resume operations again. Here, everything is perfectly fine. My systems are working perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with my properties. Everything is fine. It's just that the people can't get there. So this is a completely different sort of a DRP or BCP is required for something like this, and we're learning as we go forward. I think in the case of Nepal, where, in the short term, like with everybody else, people don't realize that banking is also an essential service. So while everybody is, looking at the state of the doctors and nurses, rightfully so, they're in the front line. So are the staff who are working in Nabil Bank or in any of the banks in the front line as well. So the first thing that we did, because there was more rumor than fact about COVID and how it got transmitted, was how to keep our staff safe and how to keep the customers who came to our premises safe. So whether it be through checking the temperature, providing hand sanitizers, providing masks, and now to the point of actually providing full body suits to the staff who are operating as the sort of pandemic starts to grow. We have been fortunate in the sense the numbers are not that large in Nepal because the government took steps at the right time with the lockdown, I think, and there has been containment while the numbers are rising, but we're still, I think around 42, 43 people have been detected positive so far, which is not a large number. What the governor said comes to mind here. He said at a time when he met the Nepal Bank Association, he said, at a time like this, the moon mantra, your main objective should be how do you survive and how do you ensure that your customers survive? Because banking, unlike many other industries, for us to survive, our customers need to be able to weather the storm over here. While the bank, say Nabil Bank, does perfectly well, systems work, we're delivering services, we've kept our staff safe, everything is fine, the virus blows over. But then we see at the other end that the customers, our loan customers maybe, or large deposit customers, they have not fared so well, then that has a direct impact on the banks as well. So the time right now for us is not only to see how do we survive in terms of what sort of processes from work at home do we put in place, how do we keep our staff who come to the branches safe, but also what can we do for our customers. This is also very critical at this point of time for banks, I think, the Nabil Bank and all banks in Nepal and everywhere, is to also directly engage with customers to see what is it that we can do. The bottom line is hit, the balance sheet and P&L of all financial institutions, like all other institutions, will be hit also. But how do we minimize not only the impact on our balance sheet and P&L, but how do we also see what can we do or what can we do together with our customers and our regulators and the government to minimize the impact so we can weather this storm and come out where we have gone through this sickness, but we haven't sort of been terminated, and we come out and we may not be as strong as we were when we went in, but we are willing to now work together to grow. And this is critical to do right now, I think, because if we just don't look at this point right now and just focus on the bank's balance sheet and P&L and don't look at our customers, while in the short term we may survive this, in the medium term we will have a very tough time. So, as has been said by the panelists, and I agree, I think this COVID has to be looked like as an iceberg, okay? We are seeing 10%, which is the health impact of it. And this 10% is very important right now. Most of the countries have done lockdown. We're all working from home. We're all trying to stay safe, stay at home, stay safe, stay alive. And that is very important. But we must also realize that that is just 10% of this, the impact that COVID is going to have on all of us. Because the 90% is the economic and social impact. For instance, as I keep saying in many of these interactions, since the lockdown in any of our countries, a very small percentage of people have had to go to a hospital, a health post, or visit a doctor. But a majority of them have had to come to avail of some banking services, whether it be digital or online, whether it be coming to a branch, whether it be using our apps, or whether it be opening letters of credit for essential goods and pharmaceuticals. So majority of the population has had to use financial services in one way or the other, while a very small percentage has had to use hospital services, let's say. So Going forward also, when the lockdowns are slowly eased out and we come back to normalcy, whatever that new normal may be, that is when we will start to see the impact that this virus has had on the economy and on society in general. And we need to start doing our homework to be prepared for that. Because there are experts, our doctors, our health ministries, all are working on the 10%, let's say, and we are sometimes, I believe that we all start to focus that 10% is contained, once the lockdown is finished, everything will be normal. It will not be, because this has already had, not only in South Asia, but worldwide, has had a much larger impact. I mean, for instance, President of America tweeting that he's banning immigration. I mean, countries are going to that stage. At this point of time, we don't know what is going to happen once this is over. So we need to be prepared for that. And I think most of us...
email
Right. Thanks well taken, Mr. Shah.
So that's it for now. Back to the moderator.
Sure. We'll come back to you. Tami sir, are you online?
Yes, I'm here.
Right. So, Mr. Haq and Mr. Shah as well, touched upon the role of the government to help citizens during this crisis. And even in India, the scenario is no different. So while you were working to keep business as usual and ensure that the banking operations are flowing smoothly, there were also announcements that were made by the government to provide relief to borrowers. There were some announcements made for direct benefits that were to be given to around 30 crore citizens. What kind of challenges did you face to accomplish this in a short notice? This is the first part of the question. The second is, how are you looking at addressing the security concerns, considering most of the employees are working from home? Did you get a chance to train your employees in the basics of information security before allowing them to work from home? And so if you could answer both these questions.
Yes, Ashwini. So the first part, you have very correctly mentioned that there were 300 million people into whose accounts monies were transferred, and bulk of these people have withdrawn the money in cash. About 8% of them have withdrawn from ATMs, but 92% of them have withdrawn from the branches, or they have withdrawn from the customer service points. So just for the benefit of the audience, State Bank of India has got 22,000 branches, 55,000 customer service points, and another 55,000 ATMs. But the ATM usage in this group of customers has been very low, and so has been the usage of digital payments. Because see, this DBT or direct benefit transfer was meant for the poorest of the poor. And this group of customer does not have smartphones. So therefore, they are unable to make use of any of the digital payment technologies that we can talk about. So this group did not benefit from the digital payments wave, and therefore they had to withdraw the money in cash. All our branches, all our customer service points are open, and thank God we were able to render the services, the back-end services usual, because that was only the maintenance part. Now coming to the second part of it, the changes that were required to be made for giving the benefits for the people who had taken loans. Now this required changes in the core banking application. And making changes in the core banking application is, as you know, even in the best of times, is a complex process. It's a time-consuming process because there is a whole cycle of change that you have to follow, which we could not follow during this period because of the constraints of staff. But nonetheless, since the benefits had to be given to the citizens, we had to fast-track many of the developments. We had to get the developers through many means to the office. The reason why we had to do that was that unlike many other industries where work from home is relatively easy, in case of banking industry, it is extremely difficult. The reason being that you are accessing the most valuable database in the world. Your financial database is the most valuable database. And if this data, it's also the most coveted database. All the hackers in the world today are trying to get this database. And if this database were to be compromised, it could result in another crisis for the country, which we do not want at this stage. So therefore, none of the banks here in India had a ready-made system for accessing their data center assets from home. All of this got evolved during this period. We also put in place a VPN, and we also ensured that if the need arose, it was possible for us to run our operations from home. So that is something which we did quickly enough. I think within the first 3 weeks of the crisis, we did that. The challenge has been for accessing the development and production environment. Now, that is something which is a very big challenge, because that is where your data resides and that is where your development assets reside. And if there is a breach there, then it could be a bigger problem for the bank than we are solving through a remote access. So that is the challenge. We are still trying to find out. One way we have tried to address that issue is that we will be providing hardened laptops. So essentially, we have created an image which will be deployed on the laptops, and we will allow access to the data center assets only through these hardened laptops. So that is how the security aspect of it will be taken care of. There are certain other security aspects which had to be given a go-by. For instance, we had biometric access. We used to have PIMs to access our servers, that privilege identity management system. But none of this is possible in a VPN environment. So that is where a compromise had to be made, but we substituted that with an OTP. So we have tried to do the best that was possible in this environment, but it is still a big challenge.
Right. You touched upon a very key point, sir. You said that 90% of the people who had to be physically present to get the money. Is it? No. Do we also need to rethink the digital banking solutions? Maybe not now, but moving ahead.
Yes, we do need, Ashwini, to rethink, and all of us need to apply our mind. The fundamental challenge is that half of the country's population is so poor that they cannot afford a smartphone. And this is the reality of life. So therefore, on the feature phone, how do you make digital banking services available is a big challenge. And also given the fact that half of the population is very poorly educated, their knowledge of the English language is extremely poor. So therefore, their ability to use those applications which require some basic knowledge of the English language to understand the application, that itself is a big challenge. Most of the people who come for withdrawal, see, we had a scheme in India called the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, under which around 30 crore accounts have been opened across the country. Now, if you see these customers, you'll find that most of the customers, their literacy level is just being able to write their name in their native language. That's all. Literacy for them means only that much. So given the fact that literacy levels are very, very poor, how do you make digital banking enabled for this set of customers is a very big challenge. And I think this is one area, where we will all have to put our minds, our heads together to see how we can find methods by which these people can make digital payments.
I just wanted to interject here, because in Nepal also we're finding something quite interesting. In Nepal, all the banks here, we, like in most of us, we have all these mobile apps and digital payment gateways and so on and so forth, which the customer was not uptaking. We had this for 10, 12 years. We were marketing it, but the customer wasn't taking it up. And everybody used to give us this example of M-Pesa in Kenya. As to, M-Pesa does so well, why don't you use something similar? Nepal could also go digital and all that. So we did a bit of a deep dive into M-Pesa to see, was it the app, was it the people, was it the education, what was it? And we found something quite interesting. One of the main catalysts as to why M-Pesa took off in Kenya was crime. The crime rate was so high that people didn't want to carry cash and deal in cash. Dealing with this digital M-Pesa was much safer. And that is the reason why people took the efforts to learn M-Pesa and do this. While in Kenya it may have been crime, I think in South Asia it's going to be corona. Like in India with the demonetization, a huge amount of digital payments started then. Rightfully said, there's a problem with education more and less in different countries and all. Nepal is fortunate with a young population and also having a huge diaspora. The diaspora requires a smartphone. Why? Because they want to talk to their spouses, their parents, their children, and to do that, they have to have a basic smartphone to do that, whether it be through FaceTime or however they're chatting. Now the question is how to use these instruments, which they already have, a majority of them already have, to move them towards digitization in payment. And I think the corona, we are seeing exponential rise in digital use of digital payments, as we are seeing with online shopping and delivery of everything from groceries to everything else, from pharmacy to into the house. So I think this is going to be the silver lining in the cloud, if there is any of this coronavirus cloud, is going to be digitization. As rightfully said, we all have to put our minds together to see how we can bring forth digitized products which our customer base can actually use, whether it's going to be through face recognition itself, very simple sort of digital mobile apps for very simple transactions that are required. Right. But I think this is going to be a silver lining on this dark cloud of corona for the banking sector.
That's really an optimistic statement. Right? Can we have the closing views? I think we are running short on time. Ramesh and Mr. Haq, Yashish, can you quickly have a closing remarks on how are you planning to rebound for growth as well, as you tackle the crisis?
Yeah, I think I
start with Yashish.
I think as far as we are concerned, we are in the insurance world, and as the gentleman from Nepal just mentioned, this is two trends that are happening. One is move towards digital, and the second is, I would say more trust in digital channels rather than physical channels. And I think the second is there is a need, a heightened sense of awareness of the need for health and life insurance. And I think both these trends for our organization work quite okay. I think those trends do get speeded up during this time, and we just hope to be gaining some, very valuable market share in this situation. I think it's more the human side that worries me, not the technology side.
Right. Mr. Haq?
Yeah, I think my reflection is, as I mentioned before, that we need to kind of start looking at the future in a different perspective, start questioning all assumptions, and we got to start to revive ourselves on the run, right? So, because I think, like what Steve Jobs said, we got to look forward, and connecting the dots is a difficult thing, and we got to do it iteratively. So I think a lot of our organizations have got used to the comfort of staying static in terms of tech and adoption for at least a number of years. I think that status quo has to change. So because today, every customer is going to ask us, I want what I want when I want it. And my question is, how geared are we in fulfilling that promise? So that promise can only be fulfilled as we unearth and discover customer demands. We got to revive ourselves and recreate ourselves. So tech is an enabler, definitely. But as many of the speakers said today, what is stopping us is the culture, our change mindset. Are we willing to change, right? So today, I think a lot of the organizers who felt that employees should be at work and they should have a physical desk and sit in front of me for them to be productive, the very people who acknowledge it, the people are more productive staying at home. Because today, if you look at in our Eastern economies, we spend about 3 to 4 hours on the roads. And if we can work from home, those 3 to 4 hours can be productive, right? So given all of those factors, I feel tech is an enabler. Right. But the mindset is what needs to change in terms of creating a new normal.
Right. Mr. Haq, quickly, if you could summarize your views.
Okay.
If you could just summarize your views quickly, So
yeah. So I would just want to add with Dhananjay and Ramesh and other Sunil Shah that it's really opening a new frontier, a new opportunity for the technology companies as well as the bank is thinking in a different way. They are encouraging more people to stay at home and do work, which is working very well. Though there's a lot of challenges, especially the hackers and all this. Also, they are getting very active because people are accessing their technology, the banking application from home and doing the transition. So we are hardening our, the equipment, that laptop or equipment, whichever is used. We have set up a set of rules that should be there, and our IT team is constantly working with all those people who are working from home to ensure their smoothness, access to the system, and they can continue their services. But I think this has given an opportunity for e-commerce companies, for the technology, those companies who are advanced in the technology, especially the banks, to get their product more to the people, and that has given them extra edge for doing their business in going forward. I think this is the situation which I think will be prevailing everywhere in the world. So that's it.
In the world. Right, right. Thank you so much, all of you, to share your views. And to summarize, I could say that companies have significantly altered their operations for the foreseeable future in response to the COVID-19. And it does appear that organization resilience has met its toughest test in living memory. Unique demands confront every part of the business, and that means expanded responsibilities for CIOs and their teams, and a bigger trust in digital, as some of the panel members did mention. It is clear that businesses that can shift technology and investments to digital platforms will mitigate the impact of the outbreak and keep their companies running smoothly now and over the long term. Thank you. Thank you, all the panel members. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ashwini, and thank you all the
Thank you.
panelists. It was a pleasure to hear your insights. I would request all the panelists to please take the questions from the chat and the Q&A window and address them if possible. Now, I would like to introduce Hitesh Raul. Hitesh heads the telco and the alliance business for Sophos, and he would be sharing his insights on cybersecurity. Hitesh, over to you.
Thank you. I'll just share my screen. Okay, hello everyone. So just a couple of checks before I start. I hope I'm audible and my screen is visible to all of you.
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you, Mihir. So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for taking out your time. Hope you are doing good, staying safe and staying secured. So my session today covers a topic that we call it as a cybersecurity as a system. So a cybersecurity system is basically a set of security products that works together. And as the cyber threats continue to get even more complex, more and more organizations today are realizing that having your security products working together rather than working in isolation or working in silos make more sense. So while we choose a cybersecurity system, an organization would want to make sure that they make a right choice. So in this session, what we're going to look at is the factors that are driving organizations to move from point products to security systems. We will also have a look at how the cyber threats, that is, an attackers, work together as a system. We'll see how Sophos cybersecurity system, which we call it as a synchronized security, works together, protecting the organization from advanced attacks. And then we'll end up a session with a fun Kahoot quiz. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share some insight of a survey that we had commissioned last year. So we discovered that 2 out of 3, that is 63% of the organizations fell victim to a cyber attack last year. And most of them got attacked twice. So the respondents who were experiencing a cyber threats were not able to prevent the attacks from entering their network and reaching to the endpoints. So what's more is 91% of the respondents who had been hit said that the organizations were running an up-to-date cybersecurity protection. That is, they were fully protected at the time they suffered the attacks. So despite of their best intentions, number one, the attackers still managed to get through the defenses. So either they could be a weakness in the cybersecurity, or probably they might have holes that they might not have plugged in. They might be running an up-to-date AV as well on their endpoints. But today, the IT systems is far more than just having a perimeter firewall or just having an endpoints. Now, this definitely raises a question of why the organizations are struggling to reduce cyber risk. One of the reasons revealed by most of the organizations highlighted are multi-stage attack, and that has become a new norm now. When we ask the organizations that has been hit by cyber attacks that what are the threats they have experienced so far, and the results were pretty interesting that you see on the screen. 53% were hit by phishing mail. 41% experienced a data breach. 35% had a malicious code and software exploits. 30% experienced ransomware. And 21% of the organizations suffered credential theft. Now, if you just add up these numbers, these are more than 100%. So this reflects that the attacks include multiple elements today. Now, just for an example, it probably could be a phishing email that could install a malicious code, which can take advantage of a software exploit to install a ransomware. Right? And this also highlights how prevalent these threats are. Another factor that was revealed is that the cybersecurity is a major time suck for an IT teams today. So on an average, an IT team spends 26% of their time just on IT security, collecting logs from different point products they have, correlating all the logs, doing some sort of an analysis onto it. And this time is more than 1 day a week. And if you see the graph below, India spends the greatest proportion of their time on IT security. That is 32% as compared to the least one, which is Japan, which is 19%. So before we go in the details of cybersecurity system, let us start by exploring why do we need to choose cybersecurity system, right, in the first place. So let us start by understanding what is a system. So as the definition here explains, system is nothing but a group of individual things that work together to create something big. Now, cyber threats also work as a system today. So what do they do? They start with an initial attack, perhaps a phishing email with a malicious URL embedded into it, which would then communicate to a command and control center waiting for the instruction what next to do. Moving forward to a second phase of an attack, which would involve a credential theft, could be a privilege escalation, or could be a malicious executables, and culminating it to an ultimate goal, which could be a data theft, could be a ransomware attack, or could be a task to bring down the services of a server all down. So that's why a system that delivers defense in depth is important in protecting such organizations against such threats. So if you talk about the organizations that we have, the IT infrastructure that we have, it is also a system. Now, if you just have a look, it is nothing but, if you talk about the IT infra, it is complex, and it is nothing but interconnected networks, which has a range of computers. It has a Mac machines, it has servers, it has printers, mobile devices, applications, cloud workloads, probably switches, firewalls, wireless system, Windows, and everything. And then the software that runs on this hardware as well. So everything together composes of an interconnected system that we have in the IT infra today. So IT infra works as a system is what we have seen. We've also seen that cyber threats, the attackers, works as a system as well. So does it make sense to have a cyber security or a cyber defense that should also work as a system rather than working as an individual and a silo product? Is what we are going to cover in the coming slides. So there is where we talk about Sophos synchronized security. So this is a cybersecurity system wherein all the products offered by Sophos talk to each other, and they transform the way you protect your businesses. Right? So let's have a in-depth look at how does it work. Right? So there are three core elements to the cybersecurity or to the synchronized security system that we are talking about. And the first one is the breadth of a protection. So let me tell you that Sophos has got a wide range of products, right from an endpoint, which provides industry's top-rated malware detection. It has a top-rated exploit prevention. It has got the capabilities of endpoint detection and response, that is an EDR solution. It is also topped up with a managed service and detection and response capability as well. And then we have a server security for protecting servers from known and unknown zero-day attacks. We have a next generation firewall that sits on the perimeter in line or could be a replacement. And this protects your network from an enterprise class features that we have, which secures the web traffic. It protects you against the threats like botnets, SCADA protocols, and along with that, it also provides flexible VPN options. We have wireless solutions, which are basically a secured Sophos access points. An encryption solution, which can protect your data no matter wherever it resides. The data could be on the cloud, it could be on the removable media, or could be on your local drive as well. An email solution, which can provide protection against threats, against spam, against phishing attacks. A mobile device management solution for managing and securing mobile devices. and a web proxy solution to protect unauthorized access of the websites, probably a web control along with an application control, along with an bandwidth management and reporting along with it. And all of the products that we are talking about is managed through a single pane of glass, which we call it as a Sophos Central. Now, the best part here is you can start with whatever you require today, and then you can keep adding products in console without a major fuss. The second element that we talk about in synchronous security is a product integration. So now, whatever products we have been discussing, right from the firewall to an endpoint to a mobile device management to a web proxy, all of these products share information with each other. Now, this information includes threat, it includes health status, and it also includes security information which is shared across each other. So what the products do when they have this information handy? Once they have the information, they create dynamic policies depending on the information they receive. Something wherein they'll create a rule automatically to block an infected computer, or could block an internet access, or could block an access to one of the most critical servers within the network. And how does it benefit? 2 points. First is a zero-touch incident response, because now this system responds automatically to the threats, and there is no manual intervention required. It does so in seconds, which is far, far, far faster than any human could ever do. And then the second part is the new insights. So by sharing and correlating information, this security gives you a deeper insight than you ever had before. Now let's look at the third pillar of synchronous security, what we call it as a management efficiency. So there is a single management console. So you can manage everything right from endpoint to firewall to email gateways to access points to encryption to web proxies, everything to a single management console, which is a Sophos Central console. So now you only need to log to one console to see and control all your security products through it. Zero servers. So Sophos Central, that is a management console that we call it as, is completely cloud-based offerings. So you can access it anytime from any location. Plus, you don't need to invest into on-premises servers that have an additional resource to manage it. And then we have a single source of truth, that since now everything is connected together, right from the endpoint to the perimeter, to mobile phones, to data, and which is sharing information with each other, you can see pretty much what got caught and which product caught it. Now, this is something that is pretty hard to do with a silos product working in isolation and are connected through probably a common framework through a SIEM or a fabric like that. So to make things simple, I'll just take you to one of the very basic use case of a synchronous security, and we call it as a zero-touch threat isolation and cleanup. So what you can see on the screen right now is a endpoint, a machine on the left-hand side, and a firewall on the right-hand side. So what happens the moment the endpoint detects a malware? What does it do? It shares the information with the firewall appliances. Now, this is what we call it as a cross-state communication, because now what we are doing is we are making two different products talk to each other. Right? So the moment the firewall gets an information, it isolates the device completely. It creates a rule that would not let the endpoint talk to any of the critical servers or talk to internet outside the organization. And yes, this also prevents the lateral movement of an attack. Just to give you an example, lateral movement is something wherein the hackers move across your organization, jumping from one machine to another, ultimately moving towards his goal. So in this case, if the machine is infected, the firewall isolates the device not only from the network, but also the device gets isolated from the local area network as well. Then what happens is automatically the cleanup starts. The endpoints get clean, the threats gets removed, and when that is done, the information is sent back to the firewall that I am now clean, and the access is restored. So everything that we are talking about happens automatically without any manual intervention. And this works not only with the endpoint and firewall, but also probably between the access points and the endpoints, data and the firewall, mobile devices, endpoint and firewall, could be any breed of the Sophos products that you have. So what is more important here to look at is the time which previously took 3.3 hours now has dropped to just 8 seconds, and that too without any manual intervention. So this is just a screen of the Sophos dashboard, just for you to have a look at it. So if you see, there is on the left hand side, you see all the Sophos products that can be managed through a single pane of glass. So you don't need to jump from one console to another console to take the events, to respond to the events, and to configure the different products that you have. Right? So that is the evolution we at Sophos have started with the synchronous security, making products and the IT infra and the security solution working as a system. So it really does not matter where the users are. The users could be in the office, could be in any geographical location. We can protect those. It does not matter what applications you are running, could be the general ones, or could be a homegrown application, or it could be something which are SaaS based. We can provide complete visibility and control for those applications as well. It does not matter what devices you are carrying. It could be a Windows machine, could be a Mac computer, could be a mobile phone. We are platform and OS agnostic. It does not matter where your resources are hosted. It could be an on-premises, could be on the cloud. We literally secure everything. And when we talk about the cloud, the first question that comes is, what cloud infra do you support? So Sophos supports all sort of cloud and virtual platforms. Sophos Firewall can be installed on-prem as an hardware, or could be on a virtual instance on a VM platform. It can be deployed as an instance on an AWS and or Azure as well. Similarly, the endpoint supports all platform as well. We also help organizations to manage the posture of the resources hosted on the cloud, could be on the GCP, could be on the AWS, or could be on Azure as well, wherein we offer visibility, we offer compliance, and we also give you the traffic flows across different instances within the cloud. We also have something that we call as a managed threat detection services, where our team of experts proactively hunts, detect threats, and use the expertise to understand the impact of an attack to our organization, and then it is followed by a remediation attack to neutralize a particular threat. So now you are saving 28% of the time or a day in a week that you used to spend in the IT security logs consolidation and the security to manage the security posture of the network. So now we understand synchronized security. We understand the advantages of using cybersecurity as a system. But then, is there any third-party reports that also talks the same that we do? So I would not speak much on it. The slide would make it pretty clear. So Sophos has been recognized by most of the third-party analysts. We are the Gartner's leaders in firewall. We are the leaders in endpoint as well. We have been rated as NSS recommended for the firewall appliances we have. We also have been rated as highest security effectiveness in NSS RAB. We have MRG FITAs. We have SE Lab reports and other third-party report validations as well. Well, so I hope this session helps you in terms of making your organizations and making your network more secure. So before we move ahead, the fourth topic of an agenda was a fun quiz that will be continuing to follow. So just to give you a background, so this is a Kahoot quiz. So probably there will be a 6-7 questions that will be displayed on the screen, and you have to answer. And we have goodies worth $50 for the top 3 winners that we have. So what you need to do is you need to unlock your smartphones. You need to connect to internet. Probably you are connected. You have to open a browser on your phone or could be from your laptop. Please type in kahoot.it on net. I'll share across the game pin with you. Please enter your name and then we are ready to play. I will also request the winners at the end of the slide to share their email address with the organizers so that we can share across the goodies to the top 3 winners. So I'll start with the quiz. So please open up your browser on the mobile phone or on your laptop and type in the address www.kahoot.in. Once you open the website, it will ask you for a game pin. Enter 315895 the game pin. So I can see 2 players. We have a lot of participants here. Looking out some more participation. So I'll repeat it again. Open up a browser on your mobile phones or on your desktop. Type in kahoot.it. Enter the game pin 315895 and register your name. So we have 14 players. We'll wait for some 15 more seconds. Expecting the player count to go high. Okay, we are on 25 now. Opening the website on the phone would make more sense because probably on the laptop, you would need to see the questions. So what you will see is a question followed by 4 options. The options would be available in the form of the colors and shapes, and those shapes and colors would be available on your mobile screen as an option. Corresponding colors or shape is what you need to press, and this is more like a fastest finger first, where the fastest and the accurate answers would be given more points, which would keep on changing after every question. At the end of 7th question, we'll declare the top 3 winners. Okay, so I think we have crossed 52 players. We should be good to go with starting the quiz now. Okay, so I'll start the quiz. So here is your first question, the first one out of the 7. So which Sophos cloud platform can be used to manage all Sophos solutions in a single pane of glass? Is it Sophos Central, which is red in color? So if it's Sophos Central, you have to press the red color onto your phones or the browser you are accessing from. Is it a Sophos Endpoint Detection and Response? Is it a Sophos Next Generation Firewall? Or is it a Sophos Access Points? Okay, so we have 19 correct answers. So let's see who tops the chart. So we have Shanky at number 1, Sudarshaw at number 2, Shreeb at number 3. We'll move forward to the next question. How many servers are needed to manage Sophos products? Is it 1 server per product? So if you have 5 Sophos products, you need 5 servers. Is it 0 servers? Is it 1 console? Is it 2, 1 for console and 1 for database? That is the 2 servers. Or it's none of the above. So when you talk about something that is hosted in cloud, okay, so we have 16 talking about 1 server per product. We have 14 talking about 0 servers. So we'll move to the next question. Shanky still leads the chart. Okay, we'll move to the next question number 3. Following are the key benefits of synchronized security. Does it share information with each other? It provides zero-touch response. It provides new insights, or it is all of the above. The key benefits of synchronized security, wherein we are talking about solutions working together rather than working in silos. Oh, wow. So we have 38 participants giving the right answer. Let's see. Shanky is still leading the chart. Sudarshan has got back to number 2. We'll move to the next question. And the 4th question is, Sophos support security on hybrid cloud. Is it true or it's false? So does Sophos have a solution which supports hybrid cloud platform or not? So I think almost everyone has answered the question. We'll wait for 3 more seconds. Okay, so 55% of, yeah, so we do support an hybrid cloud platform. Moving ahead to the next question. Oh, okay, so the 5th question. Sophos synchronized security works with what Sophos product lines? So when you talk about sync security, it works with only endpoint, only email, only firewall, or all the Sophos product lines. Well, so I think almost everyone has given the right answer. We'll see. Okay, Shanky being at number 1, Sudarshaw being at number 2, Zahir being at number 3. We'll move forward to the second last question of the quiz. What average percentage of time IT team spends just on IT security? 26%, 5%, 80%, or 100%? Probably there would be organizations spending 100% of time as well, but this is more related to the survey reports that we have. Okay, so 23% has given the right answer with 26%. Oh, I see Shanky moving down the orders, Udita topping the chart. And then we have the last question. Does Sophos help preventing lateral movement of an attack? Probably with an EDR capability we have. Is the answer yes or no? This is the last question, so you have to be fastest finger first here. Okay. So almost everyone has answered. So 51 people have said yes, which is the right answer. Now let's see who tops the chart. So on number 3, we have Yasir. Congratulations, Yasir. Number 2, we have Sudarshaw. Congratulations. And topping the chart, we have Udita on number 1. Thank you, everyone, and congratulations to the winners. I would request all 3 of you to share your email address, organization name, and contact details with the organizer. Thank you. So that's all of it. Thank you for attending. Any questions, you can just post it on the Q&A section. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hitesh. It was wonderful to have this session as well as this Kahoot game. Moving on, I would like to introduce Mr. Samat Fernando, who is the CIO at Hirdarmani Group of Companies. Mr. Samat, Dharma, if you can switch the presentation to Samat.
Just on 10 minutes, done.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Samat. All over to you.
Guys, I still don't have the share presentation. Okay, just got it. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Hope you can see my screen.
Yes, Samat, we can see your screen.
So, I was listening to a lot of the speakers. I think many of you guys have touched some of these things. We are from Hirdarmani Group, and we are an apparel group which is present in multiple countries: Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Vietnam, and Ethiopia. About 100-year-old group with about 38 production facilities, diversified into apparel and leisure. Let's quickly jump into some of the challenges what we faced during the last 1 month. So suddenly on March 15, Sri Lankan government and all of the players started locking down, and work from home became the new norm. And as a result, where the work from home was part of our ecosystem and IT ecosystem, being using cloud O365 plus some of our applications were accessible from home, but we never expected that 100% of our workforce will starting working from home. So it brought in certain challenges like high demand. Immediately overnight, the demand went up. The networks were more or less stressed, and like with all the situations, security became one of the major concerns. So there are about 3 main elements I would like to share what we focus on initially to enable the new norm work from home, and then as part of a bounce back in the group strategy, how IT can help. So let me just quickly look at. We were adapting cloud, like the earlier speaker Ramesh. We are on O365, we adapted on Azure some of our applications. So we are accelerating some of our applications to go to the cloud as much as possible where we can. I can't emphasize more on this patch. More than any other virus guard or any other protection firewall, the base protection is on the patching and taking the backups. We also quickly looked at the multi-factor. We have enabled multi-factor cloud, and we have enabled the multi-factor on some of our applications as well. This is to mainly to look at some of the phishing attacks to avoid them. I strongly suggest to look at multi-factor on all your applications. Now, recently we are trying this cloud-based virtual desktops as a much more secure method to give access to line of business applications where when the users are remote. Because earlier methods were VPNs and we had certain terminals or gateways. But as a total zero trust model, we now recommend cloud-based virtual desktops. This is one of our suggestions. We are not there yet, but we want to be a Beyond Cope organization. Beyond Cope is a Google model
concept, but it's more as a zero trust model, thinking that all your users and networks are treated same. You protect the data based on the correct identity recognition as well as device identification. So this is our new strategy on the security, and I suggest that if anyone is getting ready to really work from home, where 100% of their workforce is going to work from home, this is a good concept paper. There are enough material available, but it's a journey. You will not be able to do it immediately, but get there. Apart from the security, this is a golden opportunity for us to drive digital. Whatever the aspect, now the users are forced to become digital, where like they were when they are inside the offices in the factories. We have about 5,000 workforce who are executive card users some sort of technology. But now, since at home with the approval workflows, digital systems, everything, people are now scrambling for digital, and we are putting a major pipeline. Deepshika? So one of this is one example what we use in-house built product called Rescue to completely digitalize our production flow. So whether it's quality, production improvement, production movement, machine inventory, skill metrics, we completely use a platform called Rescue. The tablets and the mobile phones have become the norm now, being in touch, and we also drive complete data-driven decision making now. Like this says, if we have data, let's look at that data. Otherwise, let's go at opinion in mind. So I think all our managers are empowered to look at the data now, because whatever the past data, what we knew, our gut feel, are all gone now. It's a new world, new economics. And we go all out on online dashboards as well as analytical platforms. The third pillar of this thing is on the digital is automation. We are forced to cut costs, and the RPA and any form of automation is the key pillar on that. So we are primarily trying to completely automate, and our target is to basically save about 25% of the cost during the year with certain automation. We use platforms like Automation Anywhere and some of the other tools, but this is a journey I recommend for anyone if they're trying to save cost as well as improve the productivity. That's it in a very quick manner. What I want to share as our three pillars. Again, I'll summarize. Work from home, look at that security, embrace cloud, embrace two-factor, and look at a very, very strong patching structure. Then, if you can, adopt beyond core architecture or zero trust architecture. Drive digital completely, drive database decision making, and then finally embrace automation with a tool like Automation Anywhere. I can take any questions right now, if there are any.
Samad, they would be putting it in the chat to you. And thank you so much for the session, Samad.
Yes.
Let's move forward, and I would like to introduce Mr. Sriram Narayanan, Global RPA and Cognitive Automation Solutions Leader, Automation Anywhere. Sriram, over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. A very good afternoon to you. I hope all of you and your near and dear ones are all safe and healthy in these rather unprecedented times of COVID-19. So I represent Automation Anywhere, and we are one of the global leaders in the space of robotic process automation, cognitive and intelligent automation. Before I kick off, I would just like to thank some of our earlier eminent panelists. So we had Shuja from Veeam. He made a reference in passing. It looked at first in passing, and he stayed on it for a couple of minutes. Thanks, Shuja. Although he didn't necessarily talk of the technology, but it reaffirms that RPA is definitely in need of the hour. And he spoke of their very, very interesting DR and HA solutions that actually ensure that cognitive automation can be still in play, irrespective of whether or not people are able to come into office or continue to work from home, like most of us are finding ourselves are being actually a lot more busier in the last month than we were normally when we were able to go into offices. I would like to also, just point out, I think Mr. Tambe from SBI, sir, you touched upon the fact that, you've got, when I say you, I mean it in third person. Organizations today can have any level of technology, any level of technological advancements and readiness, but of what use is all that if you're not able to put people behind those technologies? And that really, I think, sir, is in more ways than one necessitating and accentuating the need for RPA. And you will see why as I just get into our presentation. So thank you once again for giving us this opportunity, and we will be on our way now. Okay. So I think in the reverse order, just for context, we heard our colleague Sampath Fernando from Sri Lanka, and Sampath actually spoke of how they have, by conscious decision and design, moved most of their enterprise applications and content and data into the cloud. And this slide really summarizes that. A very dear friend from an earlier work life, Sundar, who kicked off today's session from AWS, they of course are the market leaders in this space. And if you listen to what Sundar said, and if you listen to what Shuja said later, and many other speakers, then I think what we've got as Automation Anywhere, we are the only pure play RPA vendor in the market today, ladies and gentlemen, who've got a native cloud-based solution for RPA. And this, we believe, absolutely differentiates us from all our peers. Moving on, what this slide really talks of is, if you look at what you've got on the left, so all of us in our organizations, from the time that we joined our jobs until the time that we find ourselves in today, it could be 3 months, 6 months, a year, 5, 10. The longer the duration, more the complexity, and that's literally what the left-hand side of the slide really captures, is back in the day, our enterprises, our organizations, the businesses were exposed to the mainframes. Then came about the open systems environment with Linux and Windows. And then there's been a slew of applications that have literally continued to flood and inundate us. And if you look at this, folks, irrespective of all of what we've got, and these are all bleeding edge, cutting edge technologies, nonetheless, only 20% of the enterprise is in a state of being automated. If you look at the gap, it's a huge 80% that still needs to be automated. What typically ends up then happening, folks, is we end up literally throwing human labor and human capital at the 80%, just thinking that that's the best way to fix the problems. And if we listen to what Mr. Fernando said, if you are looking in these very testing times, and even otherwise, I think the business unusual is going to become the new normal, as all of us are finding out for ourselves. And so a great way to plug the gap and bring about near total enterprise automation is through the use of what we call as AFTEs, or augmented FTEs, or digital workers. And that is what we champion at Automation Anywhere. Moving on.
Sriram, just to interrupt you, can you just put the deck on full screen mode?
Oh, it's not on full screen?
No.
Okay, is it on full screen mode now?
Yeah, better. Yeah, perfect.
Oh, okay. Lovely. Thanks for that. So this is a slide that we just covered. This is the gap. I just talked about this. And this is the last point that I made. So if we move on from here. So this slide captures a snapshot of some of our enterprise customers. Now, we've got presence in over 100 countries. We've got over 1,500 partners. And if you notice, folks, we've got a very, very fair spread of customers across all segments. Okay? So even before we all got COVIDed, where did we find ourselves until just before COVID? I think this is a very, very promising technology. This is a very promising trend for the technology. If you look at the sheer rate of growth and continuing projected growth, you will see that this is perhaps inarguably one of the hottest technology trends going around today. And if you look at the split or spread between software license and services, at any given point in time, you're potentially looking at between 1:3 up to 1:5 software license to services revenue. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is the future. And interestingly, what used to be the future has actually become today. So I think we're all living in these times as we speak. A little more on Automation Anywhere. We are the global leader in this space, and this is evidenced through a number of leading syndicated data reports and resources. So then, how do we define the intelligent digital workforce? We break this up typically into three parts. And what's very, very important, I'm sure there are plenty in the audience who either have some form or other of enterprise RPA already in their enterprises. Many others could be looking at this. And, Mr. Tambe, I wanted to really, love to get in touch with you post this conference. But I think one of the things that you were really talking of, and we have solutions, ready-made bots in way of what we call as digital workers. So it is either a Sriram or a Tambe, but actually in an avatar. So it is what you or I would be literally doing, but being replaced, if you like, by our digital avatars. And what I'm referring to is we've got solutions where a lot of the IT use cases around BCP, DR, HA can actually be digital workers, either accessing from behind a firewall or through, let's say, some sort of Citrix ecosystem, but being able to carry out a lot of the functions, ensuring near 100% uptime without any disruption. Okay, so the three pieces that we find that we propagate, one is enterprise RPA. So we've got a classic combination of attended, which is front office, agent induced automation. We've got the back office unattended automation. We are the only ones who've got cognitive automation as an inbuilt feature in the platform through IQBot. So these bots, folks, can either be trained or they can self-learn, literally emulating our actions and behavior. So this helps you to tackle unstructured data, helps you with the front desk UI automation. And we've also got a process discovery bot. This helps you in many ways to help with predicting potential process outcomes. So you don't have to just go out there and throw RPA at automating what we call as happy or unfortunately crappy processes, but the process discovery bot could actually help you in some sort of a BPR. So then you've got a slightly better version of the process that you could potentially go ahead and automate. Moving on then, we also are the only RPA vendor in the market who's got an inbuilt analytics capability. Product is called Bot Insight, and this gives you both operational as well as business insights. So this is fantastic because it gives you a classic view of the world before, during, and after. And this oftentimes many enterprises struggle despite having invested big monies in RPA. This I'm not going to really voice over, but I'll just skim through this just to give you an idea, an example. You can see here a snapshot of the many number of existing pre-built bots, and this literally is cutting across all those industries like I referred to before. At this point, folks, just like to take a pause and break ground on the world's only leading cloud-based platform, our version of the enterprise license called as Enterprise A2019. This is the only purely web-based platform for RPA. Organizations could look at this in as many flavors, taking it all the way down to RPA as a service. You could literally spin up and spin down bots on demand, so making it that simplified. And from an experience perspective, delivery, and all up. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to leave behind. I've been trying to chat with many of the co-panelists and participants. We believe, whether it's Mr. Anil Shah, either Mr. Huck, Yashish, or even Mr. Tambe from the BFSI sector, or the many other venerable co-participants, panelists from the other sectors, we believe that we could actually have something that might be of value to many of you, because we again are the only RPA vendor in attended automation. We've got what's called as Attended 2.0, which is human-bot collaboration or human-bot harmony, where a lot of what we do in customer-facing roles can literally be replaced by our digital avatars or bot twins, as we call them. So would be very, very keen and excited to get back and chat further on this with some of our colleagues on the panel today. Moving on, I would just like to break off at this point. We have a colleague. Mihir, if you can please bring on Maruf Ahmed.
Yes. Yes. Dharma, can you also add up Maruf over here? Welcome, Maruf. So, guys, Maruf Ahmed is the Global Technology Director and at services at One World Infotech. Maruf, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much for the introduction.
So we would be having a small one-on-one chat with Sriram and Maruf to understand the detailing at a wider perspective.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know that we are very close to time, so I'll just run through this piece. Maruf Da, thank you very much, for making the time. I think Bangladesh, we heard from one of our, colleagues, Mr. Huck. I think he very, very beautifully captured the essence of what Bangladesh is and also how Bangladesh is prepared and reacting to these very uncertain times. So, why do you think, Maruf, RPA could be a mandate to any CIO that you talk to today in Bangladesh?
Well, thanks for the question, Sriram. Related to the RPA, robotic process automation, I believe, and also our colleagues that we talk with, is that I believe it's a game changer for the organization. I think the beauty of RPA is the processes that are manual, repetitive, and have high error rates, where the RPA can really excel. Now, for the CIOs, our colleagues that we have been over the years been discussing about the RPA. The good thing is about RPA is it differs from the traditional IT solutions in its ability to be rapidly designed and implemented. So on the other side, it's a few technology resources involvement is required to obtain a very significant results in a matter of few weeks of months. Now, this is why even in this challenging time, the RPA, as we are moving to post-COVID-19, would be moving to a digital transformation journey for many organizations worldwide would be taking this. The RPA does three things very well. It increases an organizational capacity, improves the quality, and improves the operational control. Now, if we go in a little bit more details about the organizational capacity perspective, as RPA, as you know, that it automates tasks, not the jobs. This is how it is an effective means of creating additional capacity within the organization by removing repetitive workload. And that can definitely be a game changer. And
fantastic. Maruf, sorry, just in the interest of time, I'll just quickly move to the second question, which I think is very related, and I'll just literally build on your last point. So, what do you think? Why do you think so? Security is always at the forefront, and we had some of our colleagues talk about security. IT security is on top of a CIO's priority. How do you think a CIO is concerned with bot security, especially if they're looking at deploying RPA inside the enterprises?
Very good question, Sriram. Now, when implementing RPA and a digital workforce, the very first engagement is likely to be with the security team, basically asking them to supply a logon for the digital workers. Now, this is where it's very interesting. How you start this conversation is very crucial, because this may be the first time the security team has been informed about the safe robots being allowed into the network. So the initial reaction may be more critical than positive. After all, security team obviously by the definition has been defending the network real estate against the invasion of the bots. Now,
Correct.
being an executive leader in handling digital transformation and security, I must say that it is very important to explain in clear detail to the security team how the digital workers are wholly security compliant. It's a safe, secure, and comes with a logical access model. I think so. It is very important for any project, RPA perspective, RPA discussions in the early stages, having a discussion with the security, because security should be an integral part of the digital transformation journey for any organization. Now, in this case, I'm very pleased that Automation Anywhere recently announced the industry's first bot security program. This is definitely another game changer. Why Automation Anywhere is leading in the RPA field.
Thank you, Maruf. I'll just move to the last question, and I think with this, like I said, we begin in the reverse order. How do you believe, Maruf, that RPA in the cloud? How do you think it could be a game changer for CIOs?
Very interesting question again. Well, as we are right now looking into different, if you think about the COVID-19 circumstances, every organization is now forced to, if the organization was already not in the cloud journey, now they're also forced to think about the cloud. Now, at the same time, my advice would be from this CIO perspective, to understand that increased reliability or resilience do not automatically come out of the cloud. You've obviously, in the perspective of, even if it is you have a microservices or container-based architecture, you still have to architect for resiliency to achieve better failover. So whenever some organization are looking into obviously cloud-based and cloud-based application, it is very important to choose a platform to understand having a platform that is cloud-native platform, because
Correct.
that might make the life easier. Because
Correct.
it's very much, you'll likely be in the cloud journey forever, because after today's circumstances, it is very much in the way the industry is moving, it would be in the cloud.
Correct. Just to wrap up, thanks, Maru. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, we would just like to wrap up our session by, I think, emphasizing one or two points in addition to what Mr. Maruf has outlined. Around cloud, I think the ease of use of deployment and the TCO, these are things that the CIO, the CTO, and the CFO, the C-suite is always concerned with. So these are some of the things that we believe with Automation Anywhere, that we are actually making it far easier to organizations to embrace RPA. With that, thank you very much once again. This has been delightful. Thanks. Over to you, Team ET.
Thank you so much, Sriram, and thank you so much, Maruf.
Thank you so much.
So thank you so much, the entire audience who's been with us since morning. And I hope you guys enjoyed the session. For any feedback, please write to us at mihir, mihir.pandya@timesgroup.com. With that, let me wrap it up here. Once you log off, there would be a feedback form which would pop up on your window, which is very critical and important for us. Kindly fill in the details as much as possible. And thank you so much for joining the Economic Times Global Enterprise Technology Forum, powered by Amazon Internet Services Private Limited, Automation Anywhere, Sophos, and we, brought to you by ET Edge, a Times Group company. Thank you so much.